Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Let me hope that you are all doing well. Today I'll be doing an overview of the topic database. Now, as you know, there are two types of database. We have our manual database and we have our electronic database. For this subject, we will be focusing on electronic database. And Microsoft Access is the application software that we use to do our electronic database. So I'm just going to launch Microsoft Access and then we go through. So I just opened Microsoft Access here on my computer. I'm using 2007 version. Now I'm going to select blank database. Now, as it relates to database, and why we select blank database is because we need to give our database a name. What is a database? A database is an organized collection of related data items. So things that are similar goes together in our database. So your school, for example, will have a database of all its students, of all its staff, etc. All right? So the name of your school can be the name of the database. All right. So for us, or if I'm going to be doing a question, let me also open that question. All right. So I have your practice database. It says, you have been the teacher in charge of sports at your school for the last 5 years. And it is time to computerize the results to try to see how the school can win the next sports competitions. There is a lot of work to do, but you have decided to work on the following tasks first. So it says, as it relates to database, your school has created a database file called sports, with the following tables and data. All right, so all things that are similar will go in our database. Now, there is something known as split screen that I did in a previous video. I can add it here, all right, to show you how to split the screen so that you're able to view two documents or more, but for us it's two documents at the same time, rather than I flip back and forth from the question to the database. So I'm going to go to on my taskbar and I'm going to right click. All right. Right click on my taskbar and here I have the option. I had it on already, so I just took it off to put it back. It says show windows side by side. So I'm going to click that, and when I do that, all the files that I have open on my computer is going to be minimized and be shown side by side. Some of them I will not need, so I will have to minimize them, and then we only open the ones that we need. So I'm going to select show windows side by side. And then there are many windows that will be opened. All right. So I'm just going to minimize what I don't want and what I want, which is a question and the database or the Microsoft Access to be shown. So here I have my question and here I have to the right Microsoft Access. And then I just adjust the screen for it to be shown side by side. So the question says that my database should be called sports. So I go to blank database and I'm going to type the name sports. And I'm going to press create to create that database. All right. Now when the database is open, let me minimize this section a bit. When the database is opened, it opens into something known as the datasheet view. And the datasheet view will look like this. All right. Now, automatically or by default, it will open and you will see ID number. And once you start writing, you will see numbers coming here because the ID number is there by default and it is on a data type known as auto number. So as you enter something, it automatically adds numbers as you go down. Right? If you want that, you leave it. If you do not want it, you change it. It says add new field, and if you go to the right, so you'll add a field, and if you add a field, and then you press enter, all right, auto number automatically comes up, press enter, All right, and it will go across, and then I will go to my new field and it will put in the information accordingly. But that is not how we do it. We would like to put some structure to our database, and as such, we do not use the datasheet view to do that. We use a datasheet view, which is a view that you're currently looking at, to populate the table. And to populate means to put in information in our table. All right? And we use what is called the design view to properly structure the headings for our table. Now, everything in our table, you realize you see field 1, field 2. Everything in our table is called a field. So the heading for the table, they will call that a field name, all right? And everything will be a field. Now, going across, that information will formulate what is called a record. So we have table 1, which is the name of the table. The table consists of fields, and fields put together to formulate what is known as records, right? But as I said, we are going to bring some structure to our database, and as such, we do not want this, all right? So we want to rather go to the design view and put some structure to our table, all right? So I'm going to go back to the question, and we're going to look at that. All right, so I'm trying to delete the table that we had there and come up with a new one. So I go to create and select table, and here I have a new table. All right, let me minimize this a bit or fix it properly so that we can widen the actual question that we're looking at. All right, and I do hope you can see from your side. All right, it says, so the database should be called sports, and the first table should be called competitors. All right, so the first table where I have table 1, that should be called competitors. So I'm going to right click. Hold on. I'm going to call this table competitors. The navigation pane, I have minimized that. So let me widen it. Here is a table, table 1. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to rename that. So I'm going to call that table, right? It says I can't rename the table while it is open. So I'll have to close out that. All right. So I'll rename it in a bit. All right, so it says we need to name a table competitors, and then we need to put in certain information. The field name, the data type, and the field size. All right, so we have to go to the design view to do that. All right, now what I love about Microsoft Access is that once you're leaving a certain interface, so I'm leaving datasheet view to go to design view, it will prompt me to save. All right, and when I'm saving a table, then I can change the name. So that was one way I showed you before that did not work at that time because the table is open. The other way is when I'm leaving, so I'm going to go on view, and I'm going to go to design view, and then it will prompt me at that time to name my table. So that is the easiest way. All right, so table name, so I'm now going to call it competitors. Alright, so I call it competitors and press OK. So here I am now in the design view. So what I need to do is to insert all my field names. And if you realize that ID is here and the data type, as I would have said to you before, is auto number. Alright, so it says here that the field name that we want is ID number. So I have ID here already. So let me just write number. ID number, all right, and it says that the data type for that should be number. All right, now there are various data types here. I have data type. Now there are various data types that exist. All right, the data type basically tells you the type of data that can be entered for that field. All right, with auto number, it automatically adds the numbers for you. Right, then we have here, we have text. The text data type can be alphanumeric, so you can enter words as well as numbers. So you with a text data type, and that's a general one that is more commonly used. It's used for name, address, telephone number, etc. It's alphanumeric. All right, and the other popular one is number. So anything that we have to do as it relates to figures, then we utilize the number data type. All right, then we have date or time. All right, so examples of the number would be like age, quantity, average, or so. The date and time, it speaks for itself. Currency, right? When we're dealing with money value, then we use currency, salary, price, discount, etc. All right, so those are the popular ones. So we just go according to the question and insert the appropriate data type. So according to the question to my left, it says ID number should be number. So I'm going to select number. Now the description section to the right basically gives you an overview of what the field name is about. All right, so if it doesn't, well, in this case, this question doesn't give us a description, but I'll just write one to show you. So it's basically, so ID number, so I'm going to say identification number of each student. All right, so that is telling us what the field name is about. So I'm just going to go through and add the rest. So I have surname, and that should be text. First name, they call it F name. That should be text. Sex, text as well. And school. And school should also be text. Now, you realize also that they ask us for something known as field size. Now, field size basically is the longest amount of characters. A character is a letter, a symbol. All right? A letter or a symbol. Or number. Right? That can hold within a given field. Now, I don't know if you've ever tried writing in a phone number in your phone and you can write only so much and no more. Right? All of it can't hold. Or you try to write a text message and all of it can't go because you utilize the amount of characters. It may say you can only write 30 characters, etc. Now, the limit that is placed on it is the field size. So that is an example of how field sizes are used. So it says here that surname should be, the field size should be 10. Or let me start from the top. So for ID number, it says that the field size is long integer. And I go down to the bottom here at field properties. Hopefully, again, you can see from your side, field properties, and by default, it is on long integer. I go on surname. By default, the field size will be 255 characters, but you can tailor it according to the given question. All right? So it says a short surname should be 10. So it simply means that if someone has a surname longer than 10 characters, right, it will only take the first part, which is the first 10, and if maybe it is 12 characters, the other 2 will not be added. All right, so that is for surname. First name is 10 as well. Sex is 1. So you realize now that for sex, now they're not looking for the word female or male. Seeing that it's 1, they may be looking for M or F. All right, and school is 20. So we have now set that information. Once we have done that, and that's all we do for the design view. The other thing that can be looked at here is the key that I'm looking at beside ID number, right? It's called the primary key. And basically the primary key is a field that uniquely identifies each record in the table. So the field ID number is the one that is set as the primary key and will identify each record in this table, the competitors table. Now, when we set, for example, here ID number as the primary key, it simply means that we cannot duplicate this data. So we cannot have 2 students with the same ID number. So it also eliminates that from happening. All right. But yeah, so that's it. So the next thing that we're going to do now is that I'm going to go back to the datasheet view and populate this table with information. So I'm going to select view and go to datasheet view. All right. And it says, what I love, it says you must first save the table. So even if you do not remember to save it, Microsoft Access always prompts you to do that. And while I'm still here, I'm going to say to you, we created the field names here. So all these field names will now be the heading for your table. So I'm going to select yes, and then we're going to go to the datasheet view, and we'll see just that. So here we are now in the datasheet view. All those field names are now the headings or the column headings, right, as you would have called it in Microsoft Excel, for the table. The only thing that is left for us to do is to populate this table with information. And if I go back to the question here on my left, it says that ID, number, first name, last name, sex, and school, and all this information should be there. Right, so I'm now going to put that in on the table. All right, guys, so I'm on the final one. So I am now finished with this table. The next thing that I need to do, it says, going back to the question, it says I need now to do a table called events. So I need to create that table. All right, so I'm going to go to create. I'm going to click on create on my ribbon and select table. And here I have another table coming up. Right, now the same thing that I did with the other one, where I have to go to design view to create properly structure my field names. I will have to do that. So I'm going to quickly go on view and then go to design, right, design view, and I'll be prompted to save my table. I'm going to call this table events. All right, so here I am. Now it says I need event number, event number, and that should be auto number, so that's there. All right, the next thing, ID number, and that would be number, and should be long integer, and it's a long integer. The next thing will be event, and that should be text, and the data, the field size rather, right, is 10. So I'm going to change this to 10, and then the other one is called distance, and that should be number, right, and the field size should be double. So I'm going to go here where I see long integer, click on it, and there's a down arrow to the right, click that and select double. All right, and that's it. So I'm now finished with my design view. I'm going to go back to view and select datasheet view. I'm going to be prompted to save my table. I'm going to say yes, and here I am in the datasheet view. Now I'm going to scroll down and populate it with this information. All right, so I'm on the latter part of this table. Alright, so now I'm finished. Alright, so let us see what is next. It says add a primary key for each table. We did that already. Create a relationship to be used to join the two tables. Now we're going to create a relationship. Now what a relationship does is that it links more than one table together so that information can be used from either table, if it is that we're doing something known as a query, which is basically a search for information. Alright, so I'm going to select database tools and click on relationships. Now the tables that I have, if I had more than one table, or all the tables that I have would have shown up here. So I will just select the table that I need to do that relationship with. Seeing I only have two tables, I'm going to highlight both of them and select add. Or I could click on one table at a time and press add. Alright, but to do it one time, highlight both and press add. Then I close the show table dialog box. So here I have both tables being displayed. The events table and the competitors table. And the information is there. Now, if I look in the competitors table, I realize that I have ID number being in this table. And if I look in the events table, I also have ID number there. And this shows me that based on this, something similar in both tables, I can use that similar field to create a relationship or a link between both tables so that I can be able to utilize information from both tables if it is that I am doing a query. So all I need to do is to create the relationship is to click on ID number, which is what I want in one table, and drag it across to ID number in the other table and let go. When I do that, the Edit Relationship dialog box opens and it shows me the fields that I have selected. ID number in the competitors table and ID number in the events table. And it tells me the type of relationship, which is a one-to-many relationship. But I'm not going to get into that for this subject. Alright, so ID number to ID number, and I press create. Once I do that, a line is joined from one table to the other. Alright, it realizes linked at the ID number from one to the other, thus showing that a relationship was created. If I move the table anywhere, they are hooked, right? They are linked. They are joined together. They have a relationship and they can't be separated. So that's how we do the relationship. The next thing is that it asks us to do, it says write the fields, criteria and results of the queries. So now we are given 2 queries to do. I will have to close out of these, right, to do the queries. All right. So I'm going to select create and I'm going to go on query design. Now when I go on query design, it shows the show table box comes up again and I'm able to, let me look, it says the first name, the last name, the school and the event. First name, last name, school and the event. So I'll need to, based on that, I need to add competitors and the event. I need to add both tables to get the name from the competitors table and the event from the events table. All right. And if we did not do that relationship, then we could not go to this step. All right. So we are asked, as it relates to the query, to list the first name. So I select the field that I want. So I know that the field that I want is first name. All right. So I'm going to click on that. And the table that it's linked to automatically comes up. It says first name. Then I go across. It says last name. So I'm looking for that which is a surname. And then it says the school. All right. So that is also the competitors table, the school. And finally, students who took part in long jump. So long jump will be the event. So I look for event and I select it. And that's the events table. So both tables are used here. Now I will have to, there is something called show and the checkbox here with the items. Now if the box is ticked, it means that when I run the query, these fields will be shown in the query. If I did not check the boxes, all right, it means, or the box, it means that when I run the query, although the information will be utilized here, when I run the query, this information, the school, if I uncheck the box, will not be shown in the query. All right. But if I check the box, it shows that I want to show it. And then I will have to now put in a criteria. And the criteria says we need to show all the students who took part in long jump. So long jump is an event. So under event, I'm going to write long jump. All right. I'm going to write long jump. Sometimes we have to put these in quotes or the app will do it for us. All right. Or the app will put it for us. All right, so long jump. And that is it. Then I will go to the ribbon and select run. There it is. So it shows me that Ross Lovell from Richard's school took part in long jump. All right. And I can double check that by going to the, let me open here, by going to, which table is that? Let me go to the events table. Long jump is the person with number 2. Number 2, which is the ID number, is Ross Lovell, right? And there you have it. So that is correct. All right, so I linked him with the ID number. So Lovell is the person with ID number 2. Let me go back to the events table. And ID number 2 is the person who did long jump here. Hopefully you can see it. So that is correct. All right, the other one says that we should list the female participants, right? List all the female participants. All right, so that sounds like it's just one table we need. So I'm going to again select, trying to give you more visual here. All right, so I'm going to go to create, query design, and all the females. So that sounds like it's just the competitors. So I'm just going to select the competitors table and press add. and close it. That's the only table I would need. All the female participants. So I'm going to select the person's, I can select it from here or I can double click it here. ID number, their surname, or maybe I should put their first name. First name first. So first name, surname, and their sex. Alright, so for sex, I'm going to write F, all the female persons. And that's it. I'm going to press run. And there you have it. Right? There are only 2 female persons. Let me go back to this side. Here's F, Ann, and Andrea. Here they are. And that's it for queries. Alright, the other thing that I'm going to show you, let me small up this table a bit. The other thing that I'm going to show you is how to do create a report. Right? Creating a report. Alright, create a report. So let's do that. So let me close out of the question. No, I'm not saving. Alright, and let me maximize. Alright, so I'm going to show you how to do a report. So here we go to create, because the things that are done in database, if you can see here, it does tables, it does forms, and it does reports, and other, which is basically the query. So I show you how to do a table, I've shown you how to do a query, so I'm going to show you how to do a form and a report. So I'm going to select, as it relates to report, the report wizard, or I said I must save my query first, and oh, I didn't give my queries a name. It says that this should be called female. So this query should be called female. Alright, so here we go. What am I going to use to do the report? I'm just going to do a report on, let me see, the competitors table to show all the ID number, the surname, first name. So I'm going to carry over all of this. So I'm going to press the arrow with the 2, right? It carries over everything. Also, I'm going to select the event that the student did, and just select the single arrow. So I want all of that on my report. I select next. And the thing about forms and reports is that it goes step by step with you. Alright? So, next. It says, how do you want to view your data, whether by competitors or events? Alright? So let us view it according to event. See that is already there. Press next. Do you want to add any grouping levels? Alright? When we select grouping, basically, it starts off with that information. Currently, we spoke about event. So, alright, under the event, let me say ID number. Carry over ID number, and then it will start according to ID number. Alright, but we do not have to add any grouping. Let me take it off. Then we press next. Alright, it says, do you want to sort the data in your table? So, I'm going to sort by the event in ascending order. And select next. It asks the layout that you want. I'm not going to trouble that. Next. Right, and just basically these were the layout, the design of it. What style do you want? I'm not going to trouble anything there. What title do you want to give? All right, let me just say sports list. All right, and I select finish. And here is my report. Sports list, ID, number, surname, first name, sex, school, and event. Alright? If I didn't want it to be so close together, I could go into the report view and I can widen it a bit. But that is okay. Alright? That is okay. So here is the report view. Right? It's currently in the report view and I can just widen this information. But I don't need to do that. So it has a design view, the report view. All right. So the report view is this, and then the design view, let me quickly go back there, is this, where I can drag the boxes, widen the boxes, etc., to get more space between. All right, so I'm going to go back on report view, which shows the final thing. And that's the report. All right, the final thing I need to show you as it relates to database. So we looked at table, we looked at reports, we've looked at queries. The final thing is forms. So I'm going to go to more forms here to select from my system, form wizard. All right. And then basically, just like I did with the report, I'm going to follow through with the wizard to see what I need to create my form. All right, so I'm going to do my form, the ID number, the surname. All right, I'm going to carry over all of this, and I'm going to go to the events, and I'm going to carry over the event and the distance. So I want all of that in my form. Select next. How do you want to view your data? All right, so the for the report, we viewed it by events. So for this, we're going to do it by competitors. All right, it says form with subform or linked form. So we're going to do a form with subform. All right, and select next. What layout would you like for your subform? All right, whether it's tabular or data sheet. All right, so let me leave it at tabular and go to next, and then you select a style. All right, I'm just viewing. All right, so I'll leave it at that. Select next. What title do you want for your forms? So for my form, I'm going to say competitors, and for my subform, events. All right, and I'm going to select finish. So it is now being generated. All right, the style that I chose is not the best looking. All right, but I have the form here: ID, number, surname, first name, sex, school, and then because I would have done the subform being on events, so this area, the subform, focuses on the event, right? High jump, javelin, and the distance. Okay, and that is it. Currently, we're in form view, and I can select view and go on the design view. And here it is in the design view where I can make any modifications that I want. All right, widen any box, etc. Minimize any box, right? And then go back to form view to see the finished form. All right, and all the 5 persons are there. So this is 1 out of 5. Let me go to next. It shows me Ross Lovell, Ben Jeffers, etc. And that's it. A comprehensive overview of Microsoft Access, right, under the topic database. I hope you learned something from this video. If you did, please like, share with someone who you think needs to know this content at this time of year, seeing that the EDPM exam is coming up and this is a topic that will be on it. All right, and if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, I invite you to do so you never miss another upload. All right, and just to be versed at the subject area. All right, so thank you very much for watching and see you in my next upload.